I have to address this Drudge headline. Drudge had this big red headline with a siren and everything. That Trump has announced he's running in 2020. Who didn't think he was running in 2020? I think he's just doing this because he knows it will spread panic through the Democrats, and they'll start fighting him now, wasting their energy and their time fighting a re-election campaign that they could wait for, while he's basically transforming the government into what it used to look like in 1776. But the thing I wanted to call this show "Stupid and How Not to Be It." That was what, because they used to say that remember this, the Democrats are the evil party and the Republicans are the stupid party. The Democrats want to destroy the country, and the joke was always that if the Democrats came along and said, we have this great plan, it's going to burn the country to the ground in 90 days, the Republicans would say, hold on, 90 days is way too fast. You know, we want 6 months to burn the country to the ground. The Republicans were stupid, and they were constantly getting played by the Democrats, who were evil. Now it seems to me that the Democrats have managed to become both evil and stupid. And if you don't believe, and why? Why has this happened? Well, let me give you two quotes, okay? One is from Obama. You remember Obama? Was it Obama? Obama? I can't remember now that his legacy is just a smoking pile of radioactive ash blowing away on the winds of history. But Obama gave a speech. There's some kind of sporting gathering at MIT, and Obama gave a speech that was supposed to be super duper secret, right? There was no transcripts out. It was not supposed to be released. They smuggled out, of course, the audio. You can never keep this stuff secret. And the audio is not very good. So let me just read you some of the stuff that he was talking about. He's talking about social media and the different ways of media. And he has said this before, but he said, essentially, we now have entirely different realities that are being created with not just different opinions, but now different facts. And this isn't just, by the way, Russian-inspired bots and fake news. This is Fox News versus the New York Times editorial page. If you look at these different sources of information, they do not describe the same thing. In some cases, they don't even talk about the same thing. And so it is very difficult to figure out how democracy works over the long term in those circumstances. And he starts talking about how basically the government needs to create a playing field. You know, the free market is good, but not until you agree on the facts. And the thing about Barack Obama is when he makes a speech, it's not just a speech. He used to make speeches about dark money. Then the IRS started to slow walk conservatives to try and silence them. Then he would make speeches about stuff we have to do, and then basically his agents would do it in the bureaucracy. When he is making a speech like this, he is signaling that the left, the Democrat Party, has to start thinking about how to silence those people who disagree with him. Because when he talks about different reality, he's talking about two things. He's talking about cable news. He says this in the speech. He's talking about cable TV, and he's talking about talk radio. Why? Because they disagree with him. That's what he means by a different reality. Now, listen to this, another speech. Former ABC News anchorman Charles Gibson gave a speech at Princeton's Alumni Day on Saturday. Now, listen to what he says. We can have honest debate about the president's policies. We can debate immigration policy, monetary policy, gun control, healthcare policy. But what are not up for debate are American ideals and institutions that have served the country well for almost 2.5 centuries. And among the most important of those ideals is a free, independent, vigorous press charged with an oversight of government function. So we can debate everything, but we can't debate the press because there's only one reality. I mean, this is the same press that has become the corporate defenders of big government. That's what they are. And so what you've got is you've got these guys who basically have been wrong-footed by the spread of information. And Obama is sending signals to Facebook and to Google telling them, he says this in the speech, fix your algorithms so that basically the facts can't get out. Basically, the people who disagree with us cannot get out. And he says, you know, the free market is fine. It's okay to make money, but no, don't make. So let's take a look at the reality, okay? Let's take a look at what passes for reality all this week long. I'm not going to get back into the guns because I said what I had to say yesterday, which is basically that the left is creating a narrative about guns. The story that the shooting that happened, the Valentine's Day massacre in Florida, had nothing to do. It was not about guns. It was about the incompetence of government. It was just like the Wright brothers story. It was about the FBI and the local police not answering the call. You know, the shooter himself called up the sheriff's department and said, I think I'm a school shooter. And they said, absolutely no reaction. They did nothing. That's the story. There's no reason for us to be talking about gun control. Schools are now safer than they were in the 1990s. Shootings are down. Mass shootings are down. But it's just the narrative is being created so they don't care what they say. And because they don't care what they can say anything. And because they can say anything, they say some of the stupidest stuff you have ever heard. And like I said, I'm not going to concentrate on guns, just on stupidity. Here's the press talking about guns. I mean, this is amazing stuff. Lawrence O'Donnell is MSNBC, right? Now, I don't pick on MSNBC for being liberal because they're openly liberal, and that's fine. But I do pick on them for being stupid because the stupid, it burns, all right? Here is Lawrence O'Donnell explaining, Trump wants to arm some teachers, and they keep it's amazing, amazing. Trump keeps saying, people who are adept with firearms, who have some experience, we will train them, give a few teachers in every school a gun. And that will mean that a guy who goes in with a gun, and they keep repeating it back to him. You want to arm all the teachers? You want to arm Miss Smith, who's teaching 1-year-olds, whatever. They just make this stuff up. And they just say it back to him. He says, no, that's not what I want to do. And they keep repeating it back to him. But now Lawrence O'Donnell, you know what, before we get to Lawrence O'Donnell, let's start with this other guy on CNN, Tom Fuentes, Cuts 7. He explains that we can't arm the teachers because they're all girls, and girls wear dresses, so where will they put their guns? Listen to this.
One of the things that people don't talk about, a lot of these schools, Sandy Hook had an all-female faculty, from principal to teachers. And for a woman, where are you going to hide that gun during the day? You can't put it in your desk drawer. Somebody might steal it, and you can't get to it. You're not going to have it in a safe in the principal's office. You can't get to it. On your person, hiding it. If you wear a dress, if you wear a skirt, are you going to have to wear a jacket every day with a belt and a holster the way a detective, on duty would do? It's not a real practical solution, even for a variety of reasons.
Those girls also, ladies, you break your fingernails on the trigger, and you get the gunpowder scuts up and it ruins your mascara. So you don't want to shoot a guy while you've got your makeup on. I mean, this is CNN. This guy is talking, but not as bad as Lawrence O'Donnell. Lawrence O'Donnell comes in and explains that you can't go up against a guy with an AR-15 with a handgun because your bullets are slower. Listen.
2,182 miles per hour. That's how fast the bullets were moving when they came out of the barrel of that AR-15 in Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School last week. 2,182 miles per hour, 3,200 feet per second. That's what those kids were trying to outrun. 3,200 feet per second. That's 3 times faster than the speed of a bullet leaving the barrel of a 9mm handgun. With a high-capacity magazine, the AR-15 can fire maybe 90 or 100 bullets in a minute. A concealable handgun can fire maybe 15 bullets in a minute. But President Trump said today that he believes if you put that concealable handgun in the hands of White House Chief of Staff John Kelly, he could have stopped the shooter in Florida last week. Stop the hammering!
The hammering has gotten to Lawrence, I think, because he now thinks it's a now wait. To be fair, they did run tests with handguns. CNN did run a test with a handgun, and this is how slow the bullets are. See, if President Trump had seen that, you can dodge the bullets from a handgun. That's the problem. All right. So teachers can't carry guns because they have skirts, and the handguns are too slow. Anyway, how do you get to this point where you're saying such idiotic stuff? The answer is simple. You're not listening to anybody else. You are surrounded by people who agree with you, which is what Obama is calling for and what Gibson is calling for. They are angry now that other voices and other opinions have come out and started to undermine what they think of as the facts. So we talked about this Wall Street Journal piece yesterday that actually made me so angry. I wrote them a letter that where they started saying, women are staying home in Germany. They're not going to work because they believe that they have to take care of their children, that their children might need moms at home, and they reported this as if this were a problem instead of maybe a good thing. Maybe it was a positive thing because they don't hear any conflicting voices. You know, Donald Trump said something really dopey yesterday too, and they've been picking on him. He had this really good thing where he actually just talked to the governors and listened to people of different ideas about gun control, and he actually listens to them while all they do is attack him. But he did go out and he said, this is cut number 5, where he said if he'd been there, he was criticizing the sheriff's department because at least 1, maybe 4 of their deputies stood outside and didn't rush into the building. And this is what he said.
You know, I really believe, you don't know until you test it, but I think I really believe I'd run in there even if I didn't have a weapon. And I think most of the people in this room would have done that too, because I know most of you. But the way they performed was really a disgrace.
So that's not the stupidest thing. People talk like this, and you know Trump, he's not careful with his language. I'm not making excuses for him. It's a dopey thing to say because nobody knows what he would do. The point is that if you're a police officer, that's your job. If you're not the sort of person, if you don't call a poet to go into the building, you call a cop. And if you're not the sort of person who is going to go in the building, if you're not the sort of person who's going to confront a gunman with your gun, don't join the police. I mean, that's the way it is. Don't become a soldier if you don't want to fight in a war. So this kind of stupidity, here's a really interesting piece from the Weekly Standard. I just love this piece, and it basically says everything that I'm trying to say. 2007, Warren Buffett, right, the billionaire, he took a $1 million bet on an investment. And he said, this was his investment. He said, over a 10-year period commencing on January 1st, 2008 and ending on December 31st, 2017, the S&P 500 will outperform a portfolio of hedge funds when performance is measured on a basis net of fees, costs, and expenses. So in other words, the market, the top performing stocks will outperform experts picking stocks. So Tom Shields of the Protege Partners took the bet, and Buffett won hugely, right? Over a 10-year period, the 5 hedge funds gained an average of 2.96%. Over the same period, the S&P 500 gained an average of 8.5%. A huge, huge difference, all right? The difference was that, first of all, the fees that the experts charged for picking the stocks obliterated some of the profits, and they weren't worth the difference in even the best experts picking the stock. So that was the best experts. But the other thing was most of the experts, almost all of the experts, couldn't beat the market. The market was smarter because the market is not an expert. The market doesn't have an informed set of opinions that solidify over time and are impervious to facts. The market is always talking to itself. It is always disagreeing with itself. It doesn't care what Barack Obama thinks. It doesn't care what Charles Gibson thinks. It doesn't care what the left knows to be true. It simply is going off the facts. The market is the best way to determine the facts. In other words, freedom and the market is wiser than the experts. Now, I want to just point out this one thing, and some of you are not going to like what I'm going to say next, but it is worth saying. Next week, Rob, are we going to have Mona Charen on next week? All right, next week we're going to have Mona Charen on. Mona Charen is a delightful, wonderful person who is a woman of courage and integrity and intelligence. She said something at CPAC that really made people ticked off. I mean, first of all, CPAC had this woman, I believe it's Marion Le Pen. It's not Marine Le Pen, is the younger one who's kind of calmed down some of the Le Pen rhetoric, which has been anti-Semitic and kind of nativist and bigoted in the past. But they had Marion Le Pen, who still clings to some of that. And she, at CPAC, said, shame on you for having these people there, and also attacked them for hypocrisy on supporting Trump and Roy, what was his name now? I've lost it. Roy Moore, in spite of their sexual malfeasance. But let's just hear the part about Le Pen. Let's play cut number 11. This is Mona at CPAC talking about inviting Le Pen.
There was quite an interesting person who was on this stage the other day. Her name is Marion Le Pen. Now, why was she here? Why was she here? She's a young, no longer in office politician from France. I think the only reason she was here is because she's named Le Pen. And the Le Pen name is a disgrace. Her grandfather is a racist and a Nazi. She claims that she stands for him. And the fact that CPAC invited her is a disgrace.
So they're shouting her down and they're chasing her, basically chasing her out of the building. And she's been very, very hard. She dislikes Trump. We've had her on before. I've kind of debated it with her. She does not give Trump any credit at all, and I'm going to talk to her about that. Now, I didn't disagree with this. I didn't see why the Le Pen woman should be there. I really didn't. But I did disagree with her about the sexual hypocrisy. I'm untouchable on this because I didn't think Clinton should be impeached for what he was doing either. I thought he was a dirtbag, but I didn't mean he was a bad president. And as I would say about Trump today, I said about Clinton then, he's just there to be the president. If he's doing a bad job, throw him out. If he's doing a good job, if he's being honest in the presidency, he should stay there. I said that about Clinton then. I did attack people for hypocrisy, like feminists, for their hypocrisy. But whether she's right or wrong, if you're not listening to people within your movement who are honest, I mean, there are people who have crossed the line, guys like Bill Kristol, when he said he would rather have the deep state than the Trump state. I just thought, I'm not listening to you anymore. Nothing you say means anything to me anymore, because if you would rather be run by a secret, unaccountable bureaucracy than Donald Trump, you don't know what you're talking about. We're not after anything that is like the same. But that's not true of Mona. Mona is actually trying to say something, that she doesn't want the movement to slip away into mindless Trumpism, into following Trump wherever he goes. Trump the other day was making comments where he was starting to indicate that maybe he would be in favor of some kind of gun control, like raising the age at which a person can purchase guns to 21. That's just wrong. It's wrong. It's not going to do anything. It is falling for the narrative of the left. It's appeasing the left when they shouldn't be appeased. It's wrong. If we fall into mindless Trumpism and follow him anywhere, we don't know where he's going to go. He is not always a very predictable person. If we don't keep disagreeing with one another, if we don't keep listening to the voices that disagree with us, we are going to turn into the left, which has now managed to monopolize stupidity. And it has already monopolized evil. It has now monopolized stupidity. We don't want to win that back. We want to stay an open party of people who disagree with some kind of civility. We can disagree intensely, but we want to disagree with civility and listen to the honest people in our party and on our side, or else we're going to turn into them. I mean, that would be the worst outcome of Donald Trump's election, because there's so much good that's come out of it and so much that could come out of it that's not so good. We have to be careful. All right.